Hi, it's Carter, man. I'm out in my backyard this morning. You can see some of my gardening handiwork there in the background. I'm not very good. Now. You you think I would because I'm Italian, and my grandfather, most of my Italian relatives seem to have been born with a green thumb, but I wasn't. So so I get some flowers and all, and got some tomatoes up there. We'll see how they grow. But the reason I'm out here and the reason I'm using this background is because I'd like to point out that you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. And how does that apply to our political interest, our political commitment? Well, I want you to contrast what Russia and Putin are sowing as opposed to what the Biden regime and the United States is sowing around the world right now. And I want you to think for a second, very seriously, about what we are going to reap, what we are reaping. Let me give you an example, okay? In Africa, right now, Putin is meeting with African leaders in the Russia-African Summit, okay? I want you to do yourself a favor. Now, some of you may be like Sean Hannity, who we watched his interview with Robert Kennedy the other day, and just going off on Putin, evil, monster, a dark soul, on and on again. It was embarrassing. He doesn't know Putin. And we realize that there are some people, perhaps even some watching this, who that's your opinion, and you're certainly entitled to it. In the United States, you're entitled to have the opinion of hating Putin. If you happen to think that there may be some admirable traits there, you might get the FBI doing you're a domestic terrorist. Sound like an exaggeration? I don't think so. You have to be very careful what you say here in the U.S. now, and all of us know it. Pro-life, the knock on the door. If you're if you happen to believe that the election was stolen, knock on the door. We see it over and over again now. If you disagree with the Biden regime, but take a look, if you will, broaden out your mind a little bit, if you don't mind, and take a look at Putin's speech. That you can go to YouTube now. It's Putin at the Russia-African Summit in St. Petersburg. And there's a 14-minute clip of the speech in there. I want you to watch it. Watch the delivery. Watch the posture of the man. Listen to what he has to say about Russian-African cooperation today in the economic sphere. A lot of us don't realize that Russia is delivering wheat to Africa, would like to deliver more. And he points out that the Ukraine, 70% of the wheat it delivered, we're told, well, now that Russia won't let them deliver wheat. Well, it's not quite that big a deal. 70% of the Ukraine wheat was delivered to developed nations, not to Africa. Only 70% actually went to Europe. Another 10% went to other developed nations, and only 20% went to Africa. So once again, we're being lied to by our government about the Ukrainian wheat to Russia, and it would still be delivered if the West, the Biden administration, Victoria Nuland and such, hadn't decided to sneak in weapons under the guise of grain delivery to developing nations. So that's where we are with that. But watch the speech, and you'll see a serious man talking respectfully to the leaders of the African nations. Okay? Now contrast, so that's what Russia is sowing now. Okay? China, by the way, is doing the same thing. Contrast that, if you will, with what the United States is saying to the African nations. You can't make this stuff up. This is what we're sowing. We sent cackling Kamala Harris to visit the African nations. Now, number one, they're a little offended by her continual lying about being an African American. She is not. Her father, I think, comes from Jamaica, her mother from India. It could be the opposite, but I think that's what the mix is. But yet she decided, in the United States, where whatever you say you are, the government says, well, that's what you are, and everybody better accept it. If I would tell you right now I'm a young lady talking to you, the government would tell you to accept it, and if you won't, you may get the knock on the door for going against the government narrative now. It's a frightening moment in U.S. history. But at any rate, Kamala went to Africa, and what was her message? That we have to have more trade, that we have to have economic development together, that we have to build railways and power dams the way Putin is in the speech that I really want you to watch. No. It was that the African nations, this is what she told their leaders, most of whom are Christians, you have to abandon your opposition to perversion. You have to embrace sodomy. You have to embrace men dressing as women, parading around in makeup and skirts, and women dressing as men and declaring that they have the male apparatus. And you have to embrace child mutilation, okay? Cutting off the genitalia of little boys and cutting off the breast of little girls. And you have to embrace it. As a matter of fact, she told the African leaders, not only do you have to embrace it, you have to celebrate it, or we're going to start economic sanctions against you. That's what we're sowing. Putin, as you'll see in that speech, is sowing economic cooperation and development, and we are sowing economic sanctions and punishment if they don't embrace perversion. Now, the African leaders, 2A1, as with a voice, told her, leave and never come back with that message. Do not tell us to abandon our morals and pervert our culture because in the U.S. you have decided to do such a thing. By the way, we got the same message in Japan, China, other nations throughout the world. But that's where we are. Larry Johnson, former top CIA operative, who is, Google him too, YouTube him too, and watch some of his interviews, stunning. And he has the courage to point out, do not underestimate the role that our embracing perversion, homosexuality, plays in supporting Zelensky. Who, by the way, has one of the only Eastern European nations that pushes transgenderism and child mutilation. The others say, not interested, thank you. So that's where we are. Now, am I telling you that I think homosexuality and transgenderism should be banned in the U.S.? No. I think if people, do what you want. Okay, if you're a grown adult. Am I saying that child mutilation should be banned? Absolutely, positively. Make no mistake about that. Yes, we tell our children they can't decide whether they want to drink alcohol till they're 18, but we now have as government policy with the homosexual banner replacing the American flag in the White House portico. We have as our policy embracing child mutilation. Yeah, I do think that should be banned, just as, by the way, the Russian government banned it in Russia this past week. So, again, you can see in the background here, I'm reaping what I'm sowing. Got a couple pretty flowers there. Got some tomatoes on the other side. And America is going to reap what it is sowing. And Russia is going to reap what it is sowing. And that's going to be a total shift of allegiances worldwide. We see it already, both in economics, the BRICS nations, and in the moral posture. We're seeing that at this summit in world leadership. And we need to wake up in this country and get rid of these sclerotic old people and bizarre creatures like Kamala Harris, who are allowing to dictate our policy now, and get back to the business of America being as good as it once again can be great. So let's do this thing.